Alrighty, here we go. Hi, Steven.
Hey, how's it going?
I think I'm having a better day than you today.
Oh man. First thing happened was the stream computer that we had the camera and everything hooked up into Discord wouldn't launch. And since we're doing this call on Discord, um, that was a problem. So we tried to reinstall, but there was a registry issue with the reinstallation. So we had to restart the computer. And when we restarted it, there was a Windows update. So the Windows update, we were like, oh, this is not going to work. And Margaret quickly sprung into action and brought over her laptop, right? So then we're trying to log into my Discord account. And apparently, because I have like 20 some thousand probably instant messages, every time we tried to open the instant message with you, the Discord app would freeze. So we then had to log into Margaret's Discord in order to do the direct message with you. It was crazy.
Uh, but now the more important question is, how were the ribs last night?
The ribs were very good, actually. They were not bad at all. They were falling off the bone. I made sure to put in about a pound of butter into the mashed potatoes with a lot of cheese. So that was also very good. No, dinner was great. Game of Thrones was awesome.
No,
Sorby
no,
and
no,
Samantha
no,
came over.
no spoilers on this show. No spoilers.
No, of course not. No spoilers.
Okay, so my community has an expectation, and that expectation is that I go right to dates. But I know people want them, and I've beaten you up about dates. But I understand the quote, and the quote you guys gave was, "We give this commitment going forward to the community that when we give you a date, we are going to be confident 100% that we can hit that date." So
Right.
I'm not going to ask you about dates because I know you want to give them. You don't have the game done. But what I do want to ask you about is the forums. You said 11 April at 11 Pacific. I was in at 11:13. That I would say was successful. How was it on your end? How has the forum launch been for Intrepid?
I would say it went pretty well, actually. We definitely saw some. Oops, hold on one second. Let me bring this. There are so many technical issues today. It is crazy.
Next time I'll just fly out to San Diego.
I know. My gosh. Okay, that should now be working. I would hope. Hold on. Okay, perfect. Um, no, the forum launch went well. So, I mean, something that we discussed obviously on Agilos' stream was that we weren't spending the past 3 months trying to get the forums
Right.
working. Those were deprioritized in order to get the single sign-on solution feature integrated into the new web platform in order to accommodate several different services that we have planned moving forward with that new website. So we had to make sure to get those features fixed. And actually, even before we worked on the single sign-on solution, we needed to address several database issues, a cloud infrastructure migration. There's a lot of stuff that the platform team was working on. So that was kind of that is looking weird in the background. So let me turn that off and turn off this. Sorry about that.
Oh, it's okay. You're in a completely different setting than you thought you were going to be in.
I know. I am a totally different setting.
So the other night on the Dungeon Crawler podcast, you said a lot of things. Like that was a pretty in-depth podcast. But one thing that stuck out was you were talking about the back end, and you said quality assessment needs to be done. Have Sean and Ryan gotten a hold of the Battle Royale mode yet, or is it still kind of laid out on the table, still being put together?
Oh no! I mean, even as backend work continues on Apocalypse and on the Alpha One preparations, QA continues to work on environment QA, on map QA, on items and different art, character art, the ability of the intersection between different pieces on the character. There's a lot of QA that can be done without needing to work on specifically what's still being torn apart and built together again with the back end.
A lot of people know that, or a lot of people may not realize that you wear two hats. You wear two very large full-time hats. You're the CEO of Intrepid Studios, but you also are the creative director. So we're going to put that CEO hat on. Oh, I lost you.
Did you lose me?
Hold on.
Oh, no. Let's see.
There you are. There you are. So one of the things that's changed recently is that originally it was a 100 to 100 goal for 100 in-house employees, 100 contractors.
Right.
Recently, you said 140 in-house employees at the San Diego office, but you still want to have those 100 contractors.
Actually, the 100 contractors might even increase from 100 to probably around 150. So we're going from a 200 hands-on project to probably around a 300 hands-on project.
What caused that 40% jump in in-house employees? What capabilities are you going to try to bring in-house? Are you just trying to do more?
Well, we had some experience already in having, out of the office contractors kind of working on the project. And from a creative control standpoint, I just felt communication is better had on certain key roles when it's in-house, obviously. And made the decision that we would bring, several of those positions that were planned for out of the office back into the office.
All right, I just want to tell the chat, I have seen you guys. I am knocking the volume down as we go. It's just we're doing this on Discord, so I'll keep bumping it down a little bit. I'm going to do some public math, which I'm not good at. You know this, 480,000 square kilometers.
Sure, okay.
But one of the things I get all the time is the numbers don't quite add up. So back in December, the number of people working on Ashes in the San Diego office was 52. Mm-hmm. Since then, you've onboarded Margaret, Sarah, Jonathan, Sean, Ryan, Danielle, a bunch of other people. Mm-hmm. The website has 44 pictures on it, plus Bear McCrary.
Yeah, there's still people that need to take pictures. That's part of what Margaret is making sure to coordinate.
I wanted to give you the opportunity to say that soundbite so we have it. Just because people want soundbiteable quotes. How many butts and chairs do you have working in San Diego right now?
In San Diego, in this office, I believe we have just over 60 that are working in the studios. And then we also have people who work remotely out of San Diego as well.
Oh, okay. That's new.
But that's because we don't have seats in the studio.
Because... And you've told that story. That was actually, the community liked that story, knowing like, hey, it's not your fault. The buildings just keep getting sold on you.
Yeah, that was another fun point.
Let's talk.
We are adapting, so it's not an issue. Movement still continues forward, and we have amazing, talented developers who are capable of working around even the oddest of obstacles.
Let's go back to December. Let's talk about the other side of that equation. We had a number that was 115 people working on Ashes, 52 in San Diego, 35 in Malaysia, and 28 in France. Mm-hmm. Are the 28 people in France working on Ashes of Creation directly, or are they from Stormancer?
So a lot of them are from Stormancer, and Stormancer is an integral third-party component to our back-end solution for the MMORPG. A lot of their work has to do with interfacing with our grid solution for how we can make seamless travel between the zones in an open world. And Stormancer, as a third party, is capable of integrating with our custom backend solutions for that. The Malaysia team, we actually, that was an art outsource team, and we have actually disengaged with that team and are implementing another solution with a different studio.
Oh, excellent. And I was going to ask you if you wanted to talk about those two groups, but you already did. All right. So that's all the business stuff I want to talk about, because that's just some sound bites I wanted to give you the opportunity to talk about. Let's put your creative director hat on. Notes 3. I'm not going to ask you a date on it. More along the lines of, have you done it a few times and scrapped it, not been happy with it? Have game change designs, has the game design changed a bit and that's been the delay?
So Notes 3 really relates I mean, the date for Node 3 really relates to a couple things, and I don't want to spend too much time on it, but it has to do with these. This series is a very marketing heavy kind of series. It gives a lot of information on the core game loop of Ashes of Creation, and we want to make sure that when it goes out, because it will be in front of so many eyes, that it's representative of the key marketing points and dates that we have for the project. Now we could put something out, yesterday or months ago, but it wouldn't be to what I believe is the quality necessary, both from a gameplay perspective, actually showing the mechanics in the Alpha 1 presentation that I want Nodes 3 to have. So I view that 4-part series as kind of being indicative of certain release points for the testing periods going forward. And I see Nodes 3 being released when Alpha 1 is out, and I see Nodes 4 being released probably closer to beta.
Wow. Okay. Good. I like that. Major design changes. There has been one that a lot of people who haven't been following all this time, they may not understand that. We go all the way back to April 2017. You talked about castle sieges, and those castle nodes were going to undergo an automatic siege each week. And then fast forward to now, and you changed that. And I still get a lot of people saying, no, there's going to be a siege at each castle each week. And I'm like, no. But what was the driving force for that particular game design change?
So I think there are two design changes that you're talking about there. The first one with regards to events destabilizing a node into a siege. We moved away from that fairly early on. I think probably just right after we discussed that.
Right.
And the reason for that is we felt it was punitive enough for an event to result in the disabling of services and or NPCs that affect the amount of experience capable, the experience loop capable within that zone, should those be disabled, to have attrition take effect. So that was the first reason. And then the second thing, I'm sorry, did you mention castles when saying that? Or you just
it was. Remember the castle has its 3 military nodes.
Yes,
and originally those 3 nodes were going to get sieged each week.
Yes, that still occurs. So that still happens. I think the first one when we were talking about April is if an event occurs, like a raid boss comes out and attacks the node, and the node can't defend, that it might delevel.
That was one, yes, but you maybe I'm wrong here. The castle nodes, I thought the current design is that each castle ownership period, I thought those 3 military nodes got reset, and then the guild owner had to rebuild them.
What happens with the castle nodes is each castle comes with 3 nodes, and the castle period is 1 month. So you siege a castle, you own it for a month. The first week, node A of the ABC nodes, the guild has a week to establish the defenses of that node, to build it up and get ready. And the following weekend of the siege that had just previously happened, there will be an event where attackers can come and try to destabilize, siege that node and take it down, thereby disabling some of your defenses for the incoming next siege. And then node B gets the next week, and node C gets the weekend after that. Depending on your performance during those 3 weeks preceding the next siege cycle, will determine how many ancillary defense bonuses the guild can utilize during a siege. In the 4th week is then when the actual siege of the castle happens, because it's on a month cycle.
Perfect. You know what? I actually, for as much as I dig into it, I didn't actually realize that it was 2 things. I thought the event had become that build-up.
No, so the event is purely with regards to nodes. So events such as hordes of monsters coming out and attacking the stables and or NPCs, those can react to the development of the node itself. If a raid boss comes out of the mountain and attacks the node, it can disable services. Now, previously we had mentioned that it could also delevel the node. That's what's been changed. A node cannot be deleveled through an event. However, the event can disable services, building structures that all feed back into the possible experience that players can give a node.
Perfect. I'm going to share something that you shared with the content creators, because I thought this will give some people some insight about how your mind works, and that you said your mind doesn't always take into consideration the ancillary knowledge that you have of all the mechanics. And it's pretty easy to tell you love giving leaks, and that since Margaret came on board, you live in fear of your life. But the community loves leaks. How hard is it for you to share stuff? Because you know that if you share a snippet, then you're going to just have to keep going with more and more stuff.
I mean, if the question is how much do I love sharing, to share things probably too much, right? Not probably to the project's detriment, I would say. But now that Margaret's on board and has the ability to kind of take a more in-depth look at the marketing and community involvement aspect of what we're doing here, she's putting it together in a neat, regular update kind of format that allows us to share things moving forward and not kind of sporadic events like my leaking. So I can respect that. Obviously, leaks were easy for me because when I'm not doing the creative director stuff or the, business side of things, I can jump on Discord at night and give a few leaks. Well, that type of spontaneity isn't, something that can be consistent. And I think what Margaret is doing is making it more consistent so that the expectation level of the community is kept appropriate.
How many times a day do you want to jump into the Discord when we're arguing between each other and we're wrong? How many times do you want to jump in and make clarifications?
I mean, I love what Discord has to offer from a community engagement standpoint. I think that it's a great kind of real time place where you can interact with the mind of developers and or a project that hasn't been seen before, outside of Discord. Obviously, there are downsides to Discord. It's a live feed, so unless you have somebody on the ball with keeping quotations and then posting it on a more formatted kind of place like the forums, that can be an issue. But having those things in synchronicity is definitely a good thing. I'm glad we have our forums back up because that gives a more permanent presence to what is discussed on Discord.
Yes, and we need to get you your second account so that you can come in and engage and not have your messages all spanning across the top.
We actually fixed that. It wasn't
Okay.
intended to per message per comment. Now it's based only on staff created threads. So the staff created threads will be highlighted, not necessarily the individual comments.
Well, that's good then.
Yeah.
How much of the iceberg are we seeing? I know you've said that you don't want us to know everything about Ashes before day one, but how much of the iceberg are we seeing? How much is still under the water? And then I really want to frame it as, would you say we have like 5% of the information? 8, 3? Where are we at?
So are we talking visuals or are we talking information?
Either. Take it any way you want.
Okay. So from an information standpoint, I would say that you're getting I would say the community is getting a pretty good amount of information to contextualize a lot of the game systems and mechanics and understand what the world is going to look like. From the lore standpoint, I would say you're getting a very little amount. I want the story to kind of be related to an individual's experience inside the game rather than having to read, websites and kind of in-depth, posts about the game. From a visual standpoint, I think that when Alpha 1 hits, there's going to be, because it's not under NDA, you're going to have a pretty in-depth look of the game. So yeah, I would say, all in all, I followed a lot of developments. I think our kind of approach to kind of transparent development is definitely indicative of what's been coming with a lot of other independent developers over the last 5-6 years, and I'm glad to see that in the industry now. I think it's important that players get a kind of in-depth look at what's happening on the projects that they follow. But yeah, I think the idea there is to make sure the community gets involved and has an ability to kind of voice their opinions of what the development's showing.
Yeah, I've been gaming for so long. I miss the days where you got it on day one, and that was it. Nobody knew anything because the NDAs were so. It's like there was no go online and get your quest answers.
Absolutely. I think the key there, like I miss those days too, sort of, right? I think there's a comfortable blend between the two worlds. Like on one hand, not seeing it at all until day one, you can end up with some completely off the ball mechanics and
Mm-hmm.
or systems that are not, well thought out or don't engage well with the community. And that's the downside of not having kind of an more open development where the community kind of gets to have the ability to get feedback. And on the flip side, yeah, I agree, I don't want to step into a game and know everything about it before I step there. But I think that what will provide from a story aspect, and what we're limiting and telling about the story, that's going to be the engagement that players want to find. Also, the exploration, like alphas and betas, those are going to be limited to certain areas. So keeping the exploration aspect of what the world has to offer kind of tucked away until players get to jump in, that's going to be good.
Let's talk classes and archetypes. And what most people know is that there's 8 archetypes, which is your job or your role, and then 64 classes. Now, I'm sure you hear it all the time or you see it, no monk, no druid. But what some people may not know is that you originally had a plan for 12 archetypes, but we never really did find out the other 4. Do you want to share anything about the 4 that you cut?
Well, it wasn't specifically 4. I think there was
Ooh.
a long list of potential archetypes that could have fit those 4 spots.
Oh, okay.
And what we wanted to do was just, obviously any archetype you add with the subclass, with the augment class system, the secondary class system, multiplies the amount
Mm-hmm.
of balance necessary by a large amount. So really, I think from a scope perspective, we wanted to make sure that we're biting off not more than we could chew from a design balancing standpoint.
Let's touch on races, and this is for the Tulnar fans out there. Players will have dials to adjust the reptilian, mammalian, humanoid, and
Mhm.
other attributes of their Tulnar character in the character
Mhm.
creator. I've been
Mhm.
asked for 2 specific: insects and amphibians.
Oh, there will. I hate to say, but there will not be insects or amphibians or yeah, in the Tulnar spread. So the way that the Tulnar is intending to work is, you have those 3 influences, that kind of bestial, and then the reptilian and the humanoid features, right? When you select one as a base template, you're going essentially the Tulnar is 3 races
Mm-hmm.
essentially. And when you select one as the base template, you're going to have the dials of the other 2 available to you. So, a bestial kind of creature, that mammalian one, is going to have like snout features, going to have the triangular head kind of with the ears. It's going to have fur on the skin. It might have inverted knees. Those are going to be kind of the influences at the base mesh level. And then when you incorporate, humanoid features, if you dial up the humanoid bar, you're going to pull the snout in, you're going to take the triangularity down, you're going to pull the inverted knees up a little bit more, you're going to influence more skin with the hair. Those are the types of ways you're going to change the base mesh appearance. If you were to dial up the reptilian, the eyes are going to go more circular, the head might become more circular. You're going to see scaly skin influences with the hair. The idea there is to give the player kind of influence over that mixture of those core races.
So sorry, guys, no insects, no frogs. Uh, let's touch on probably the most controversial topic in Ashes, the corruption system.
Mm.
Now, it's up to the viewers to go get educated on the corruption system, but the big one is, why is it that a non combatant can attack a corrupted player and maintain that non combatant status? I mean, is
Mhm.
it non combatant mean I don't engage in combat?
Yeah, I mean, you would view the corrupted player as part of the environment, almost like a monster, so to speak. So, from a faction standpoint, you're not flagged against a member of your fellow, non-faction, right? Instead, you're killing something that is innately corrupt. They've gained that corruption score, so there's no need for you to be flagged. What would happen from a mechanical standpoint?
Mm-hmm.
That's just the kind of explanation from a not lore but from a in the world
Mm-hmm.
explanation. But from a mechanical standpoint, what would happen is you would see groups of players, a guild perhaps or a party, having one person go red, so to speak, and then whenever somebody tried to kill that red player, they would flag, and then there would be no penalty for the rest of that group flagging and killing the person that tries to kill the corrupt player. What we want is in the flagging system, it is not impossible for you to kill other players without their consent. However, it is extremely detrimental, and you are disincentivized to do so. So we're not taking away the choice of the player necessarily, but we are making sensible penalties for gaining that corruption. And part of that sensible penalty is that if you're going to go red and you want to defend yourself, you're going to have to keep gaining corruption until your soul is so corrupt that you can no longer effectively defend yourself.
Now, if you're when you're corrupted, and people got to remember, it's a chance. The deeper into corruption you go, you can drop loot, your weapons, your armor. Not you will, you can.
Correct.
But who gets to scoop it? The people in the fight? Anyone? Random passerby? The person who delivers the kill blow?
Anybody can scoop it. So if you go down while you have a corruption score, depending on how much of a corruption score you have, will determine what the chances of dropping the item and the potential of dropping multiple items. So the idea there is that you go down, anybody can pick up your gear. Now, some might say, well, if you have friends nearby, they'll just be waiting to spam the pickup, and then that person doesn't lose anything. Well, that may be true, but ideally what's going to happen is, there's still a great risk for somebody to PK because anybody can pick that loot up. You could run by and grab it. Yeah.
Let's talk personal caravans. I know we've talked about the node caravan system a lot. Do personal caravans share the same attack, defend, ignore mechanic as the node-driven caravans?
Personal caravans can go beyond so you have the system-generated caravans from the nodes and or from even particular quests that can happen. And then you have the personal caravans. The personal caravans can go above and beyond. And the reason why is because the personal caravans rely on a construction effort of pieces that create this caravan, and players can create better pieces through different professions and or artisanship aspects. So that's kind of, I would equate that to like the crafted version of caravans, in which case you have best in class there. And yeah, you can create stronger caravans through the crafting.
But do they still work on that attack, defend, ignore mechanic when you stop?
Oh, yes.
So is there a reward for defending a personal caravan? And if so,
yes.
Who pays the reward?
So there's going to be advancement trees that exist from a quest standpoint as a defender or as a brigand, so to speak, a highwayman. If you participate in one of those trees, the more successful participations you gain, the greater rewards and unlocks you'll have in those quest lines. So there's not going to be any way to like farm that per se, like creating. I mean, you could create the shortest caravan like from one node to the next, but those distances of the caravans and the successful defenses will also be measured in these paths as well. So there's benefits there. Also, the caravan sponsor, the person who starts the caravan, they can list their own personal rewards for individuals who join, such as a portion of the return, up to a number of personnel. And then if you reach that limit, when another person the interface message to join in the defense, they won't see the reward list.
Excellent. That's actually that goes way deep into a couple of questions people had asked on the forums today. A personal caravan can be launched from any point of storage. Does that include storage at your freehold? Yes,
it does include storage at your freehold.
So when a caravan is destroyed, it drops those redeemable certificates, not the actual item. Where do you redeem a certificate if I launch a personal caravan from my freehold?
So the caravan becomes a wreckage upon destruction. And that wreckage is an interfaceable item that players can come up to, and they can receive certificates for a portion of the goods inside the caravan. Now, the idea with that certificate is that it must be taken back to the point of origin, or at least a region within that point of origin, potentially. We'll see about that last part because there's a few things I want to test in alpha from a gameability standpoint. The idea and the reason why for this is because what might happen is you may have some type of collaboration within a guild to kind of game that system. If,
Right.
hey, I'm going to reach this caravan just to the border of the region, and then we'll all destroy it, collect the goods, and take it to, that region's warehouse, and have to skip out on the last half of the way. So it must successfully reach its destination before the goods can be considered a part of that region.
Yeah, somebody had asked me, how would you claim it from a freehold? And I was like, I don't know. Good question.
Oh no, you could take it to the city per se and claim it from a node as well. You don't have to go back to if the freehold was the origin point and there was a node nearby that freehold but still in the same economic region, you could claim it back at the node.
What happens to a personal caravan when it's destroyed? Do you repair it? Is it permanently lost? Is there a cooldown timer before you resummon, or is that something that you're still playing with?
So there's a few ideas on that. Some of the ideas relate to, if you have higher grade components as part of a caravan and the caravan is destroyed, in the wreckage, there might be those component pieces if they survive. And then players can salvage those and use them to create, their caravans or something. On the flip side of that coin, if your caravan is destroyed, some of the other thoughts that we've had is that you'll be able to salvage from your wreckage, you personally, some of the component pieces of that you put into the caravan. But that's something that we're going to test a couple of those design prototypes in alphas and betas.
So not like that other game where 4 minutes and 59 seconds later, your ship magically repaired itself?
Oh, no, not that one. That was, that's kind of counterintuitive to, I think, when players spend a lot of time investing in creating a ship or organizing a raid or organizing a PvP session or whatever, and you can just willy-nilly kind of repair and redeploy, that creates non-definitive successful scenarios where you should be rewarded for the risk you took in attempting to win this fight, and that reward should be a destabilizing loss per se to the other faction or to the other group. That's kind of, I think, the finality that players want to see in their large raid interactions. That when I win, I actually won something. I'm just not going to see this ship come back in a minute.
I think that's why everyone liked your stance on ships, that ships can only be spawned from land. So you win out in the ocean, that's it. The other team doesn't have a ship now.
That's right. Yeah. So if you're out in the ocean and destroyed, it is actually a definitive defeat.
Let's talk node sieges. We know that the instance department building can be targeted independently during node sieges. We know freeholds can be looted after a successful siege. What about in-node housing? Are there any special rules or quirks for in-node housing during sieges?
I'm sorry, give me 1 second. I just got a document that unfortunately has to be signed before 3 o'clock, so I have to sign it on stream with you. What's today, 15th?
That's okay. We can see the individual in the TV screen.
Oh, nice. There you go. Hold on. That one. And then... sorry, guys. All right, there you go.
You only wear 2 major hats at a company, so how dare you? How dare you interrupt?
Yes. Okay, so repeat that question for me.
So what it is that the instance department buildings can be targeted independently during node sieges. Freeholds can be looted after a successful siege during that 2-hour window. What about in-node housing? Are there any special rules or quirks during a siege, or is the in-node housing safe during a siege?
Any building within a node during a siege can be damaged. And when a building is damaged, its services, accessibility, NPCs can become interrupted for a period of time. There is a repair function and feature that the city and or citizens may participate in order to bring that building back into good standing once the siege is complete. So that applies to any building, including in node housing.
So I'm going to go off my script for a second because you just brought up something interesting. If I don't think I can win my siege, I'm running. They've managed to run the clock on me. I could just run through the housing district and be just as big of a nuisance as I can. I lost the siege, but I'm still gonna mess your personal holdings up.
For sure. I mean, that was a valid tactic in ancient history. That
right.
Even if you didn't feel you could hold a city, disable as much of it as you could. And that's kind of a concept that we don't want to stray too far from when it comes to our sieges in the node system. Is that there is a possibility that should the attackers make entrance into the city and the defenders not prevent them from entering, that anything is at risk.
Let's talk airship travel. I know a lot of people are stoked about this. Is it going to be an instant loading screen from port to port? Or is it going to be like Final Fantasy XI where it's an actual ship ride in real time?
The goal is to have it be an actual ship ride in real time. I think some of the great experiences, and very immersive, in fact, that I've had as a player is being able to see the world that you're playing in, but from a very different perspective. It can be quite a fun experience, and I think that's something we should try to aim for when it comes to the airship travel.
Will people be able to see the airships overhead, like moving around?
Oh yeah.
Will there be the potential for events on the airship? Angry avian people, dragons, sky pirates?
We talked about that a while ago. Have certain events. Right now, that's not a part of the plan, but that could be something that happens, post-launch as a additional feature for an update or something.
Alrighty. Speaking of pirates, I know you played that other game that had really good naval content, but other than a handful of monsters in the ocean, it was pretty empty. Will there be pirate NPCs roaming the waters?
There are not really plans for pirate NPCs. There is a lot of plans for actual creatures that are in the water. The other game, there was outside of like sea bugs, there was really nothing right. That was present, unless you ran past the Kraken a couple of times.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Kraken every 48 hours, right?
Yeah, exactly. No, I think the first time that the live server, I ran the first, I think it was like the fifth or sixth day, we were the first ones to complete like a full trade ship worth of packs or whatever, and we were taking it to the center island, and I was piloting it, and I ran past the Kraken. It destroyed our trade ship, and all of our packs fell to the bottom of the ocean, just sitting under the Kraken. And we had no idea about its mechanics and whatnot. So like my whole guild was down there swimming and like drowning to death as we're trying to like get these packs back. And the Kraken would just run over and kill everybody and run over, kill everybody. I think it was horrible, but that was a great experience. I loved that. That was a lot of
fun. Let's talk about the last blog in the word legendary. It appeared a lot. And you cleared that up a little bit on the DCN podcast, but do you think that the difference between legendary and legendary unique is going to cause confusion? And do you think that cheapens legendary unique a bit if it's no longer like the top?
It's potentially, that could potentially be the case. I would say one thing about nomenclature is that, in our game design document, right, the GDD, we have our nomenclature, but it's possible as we do a review, moving closer to Alpha 2, that some of those names will change. And as a matter of fact, it might even be on purpose that some of the names that we reveal through talking to the community about systems and designs purposefully change, so that this whole give and take on information kind of gets reset a little bit when we move into beta.
Because my next question would you be open to the idea of a community contest to rename Legendary Unique to something even more grandiose?
Oh no, I don't know about contest, but I would say that as we approach the testing phases, you may see, the community will probably see some changes in the nomenclature of specific mechanic systems and or items and things.
Let's talk about the number of abilities. Previous statement was the number of skills on the action bar will be contained, fewer than 30. Any update? No update?
That's still the goal right now.
We know that it's going to be 75-25% split, either action, tab action, any amount you want. Do you have a ballpark for how many abilities a character will have to choose from?
We do have a ballpark. In fact, we do have some specifically gauged out class and skill trees. But you'll probably hear more about that as we approach Alpha 2,
Alpha
when
2.
when we have those actually presented in a testable format. That's when you'll get info on those.
Now, there's been a lot of discussion of what's an action skill, what's a tab skill. Unfortunately,
Mm-hmm.
the genre doesn't have set definitions,
Mm-hmm.
because you've got skills that appear in both action and tab games that aren't specifically targeted.
Mm-hmm.
How do you classify a ground targeted ability like the Grimoire? Is that action or is that tab?
I would consider that an action ability. I would consider any placeable template as an action, as a more action than tab. So a tab targeted ability is something that you must have a target for. So in order to utilize the skill, you must have a target for the skill. That's I believe what a tab target definition is. An action oriented skill is anything that can be utilized through placement of the player, whether that be placement on a reticle, placement on a ground, templated directional placement. Those I consider skill based action skills.
Perfect, because when you're talking what is action, what does tab mean, ask the creative director, and that's now what it means for Ashes.
Mm-hmm.
People have asked me about Endow Life. Any chance that it will restore some of that negative XP that's gained on death?
Um, so there's a few resurrection um, abilities that will allow for augments to restore some negative XP
Oh.
gained. We're going to test that,
Mm-hmm.
obviously. We want to make sure that it can't be gamed to subvert what is intended through the flagging and negative experience systems. But the idea there is to create relevance within those classes that house these types of skills. That makes sense for controlling life and death, so to speak.
Let's talk healers for 1 second. The Lifeline skill from Alpha Zero, it did both damage and healing. A lot
Mm-hmm.
of healers are wondering if they're going to see a Shadow Priest flavor or a Chloromancer from Rift
Mm-hmm.
flavor where you're going to be able to do your healing by doing damage. You said earlier, I just want, because people begged me for this question.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna answer it for you. We're gonna find that out closer to Alpha 2, right?
No, I think that actually it's safest to be, vampiric spells that create damage, and as a result of that damage, give some type of life steal. And those will be spread out amongst a few classes, I
Oh.
think. Yeah.
Artisan classes, because people want to know. They want specific sound bites for stuff you've never confirmed. Is there
Mm-hmm.
lumberjacking and tree harvesting? We saw it in the notes video, but you've never actually said it.
I can confirm there is gathering skills. Yes.
The fishermen are hoping I can reel them in something. Any
Yes.
nibble you want to give on fishing?
I think that fishing is a great vehicle for specific material gathering as well. I think that you can find alchemical agents among fish that you are able to catch. I think that from a sports fishing, so to speak, atmosphere, I kind of like the duality that some other games have utilized in fishing, where you have two forms of fishing. You have more mundane fishing that can be done at like lakes and smaller game, and then you have kind of the sports fishing element that's done out at deep sea kind of stuff. I think that's a cool dynamic to fishing, and that's something that we're trying to aim for in our system design.
Let's talk mechanics. The fog of war on the map, still the plan. You won't see the whole map. You'll have to actually travel places.
So you'll see in the most recent scientific node blog
Mm-hmm.
that there was actually components of library, the unique building that's present in that
Mm-hmm.
node, to offer some features that address the fog of war. And those other, there are other features that exist with other node types that also address certain aspects of the fog of war. So it's beneficial to be an active citizen within certain communities in order to avoid, the perils of that fog of war presents from a navigation and or exploration standpoint.
One thing from the blog that you mentioned, locations and inhabitants of new dungeons or point of interests. That sounded not only like the location of the dungeon, but also maybe some sort of a bestiary, because you had mentioned that the bosses are going to change their abilities based on how many metros and what types of metros. So I got the so yes, go to the library and study.
Yes. So not only is it a bestiary type of interaction with with certain unique buildings like the library, but it also could potentially provide players who are very active in giving information back to the library to disseminate amongst other citizens. Those types of players, they can receive certain buffs for a period of time should they choose to hunt or engage in a dungeon or point of interest where they know the types of monsters that await them, so they can receive buffs when they engage with them that benefit kind of armor piercing and or higher chance of landing certain control effects, whatever. They can receive those buffs from the library if they're part of that system as well.
One point you mentioned the idea of player-made maps. Still in, gone by the wayside, not ready to talk about it.
So we just did a review on player-made 6 months ago or something, and for now I've pulled that out of the design for a little bit. We'll revisit that after Alpha 1 and determine whether or not it's something that could be implemented. But right now, player maps for the moment are shelved.
Battle maps and taverns from the Mighty Beard blog. Still
no, those are still on the roadmap.
Still on the roadmap. Let's see. There's one final question because I know that we had technical difficulties, but there's been a phrase I've seen in a lot of places because I go way into I put all the pieces together. You've talked about castle sieges, node wars, caravans. But I keep finding this phrase, open world battlegrounds, but it's always in after castle sieges, node wars. Is open world battleground the heading and all those things fall underneath it? Or is open world battleground your reference to there is PK options in the open world? Like it's nothing safe.
Oh, no, I would say open world battleground to the first part of that, where basically these types of systems where you have objective-based gameplay contained within an area, that is what I would consider open world kind of battlegrounds. And I know sometimes my terminology might be different than others, obviously, but I consider a battleground to be a location that typically used to be kind of instanced or within a particular zone. That has an end objective for a group of players, and all of those systems that you had just mentioned, those have end objectives, right? A lot of other games have instituted guild war systems that are just player kill count and a time period. I think those are really lackluster when it comes to strategy, where when you have a group of players together and you're engaged in either a raid or you're engaged PvE events or PvP events, whatever. The whole purpose of rallying the troops is to come together and effectively accomplish a plan, right? And that plan should have some strategic elements. So I wanted to move away from just a simple body count and move into objective-based gameplay. Now, obviously, if you're going to be winning engagements, you're going to have a high body count. If you're going to be losing engagements, you're unlikely to accomplish your in-game objectives. But I think those should be the integral part of any system.
Alrighty,
objectives.
That was important because I keep getting asked when people see the quotes, they're like, well, what about the open world battlegrounds? And I keep saying, no, open world battlegrounds is the heading. All those things go underneath it. And they're like, but it says it. I'm like, okay, I'll get it clarified. And that's it. I know we started a little late, but you're running a business, you're developing a game. You got any final, I'll keep you on time, and you can leak us something tonight to make up for being late.
I think I can. I mean, I can stay for. If you have a few questions, that's fine. I know I came on late, so if you want.
Okay, then I will ask the last of the bits and pieces that I had gotten about PvP.
Okay.
Has the 20-man free for all stayed above the cut, or is that fallen below the cut, or it's still too early to know?
I would say it's too early to know right now. I would like to have that above the cut, so we'll see.
And then the other night you had to clear up. I don't know where the confusion came in with the community, the difference between node wars and node sieges. But then somebody asked the question, what are the victory conditions for a node war? We know that obviously a node siege is pull down their flag, put up your flag. But what are the victory conditions for a node war?
So the node war objectives kind of depend on the type of the node, the stage of development of the node, and the patron guilds or societies of the node. So, for example, if you were to have a guild that was a patron guild of a node, and it was a stage 4 node, and that guild had some type of building that was, or statue that might have been dedicated to it within the city, it's possible that one of the objectives of winning a node war would be to destroy the statue, right? So you could see like a midnight run against the city, and who's ever present from a citizen standpoint would need to defend that particular statue. If you had an organization like the Thieves Academy, and they had a relic they stolen successfully as part of their quest line with their members, that relic might be situated within the Thieves Guild inside the node. And it might be one of the objectives to try to steal that object and take it back to your node. So like casting a 2-minute spell on the object to secure it, and then having a slow kind of, I can't think of the top of my head. Sorry, my brain's a little slushy today. Having an encumbrance that's on the character holding the flag, so to speak, and taking it back to the node. These types of interesting kind of small gameplay loops that exist from an objective standpoint in these wars makes it interesting, fluid, dynamic, something that is not just cookie cutter every time there's a war, but kind of a situational on the progress of that particular node, its patron organizations, and or player run communities.
Now, you did mention something in there that was actually my last question, but you mentioned something in there that I want to make sure we clear up, because you said a midnight run, but that would be for a node war. The node sieges, yes, and the castle sieges, those are still at set times for the server prime time for the prime time of that server.
Yeah, I thought you were asking about node wars.
I was, but when you said the midnight run, I don't want somebody to grab this soundbite and say, sieges can happen all day. Sieges are set times.
Correct. Yeah. So sieges are always reflective of the server's time zone. So there is a window in which a siege can be declared, and that window is respectful of the server's time zone. And then castle sieges are set times that are also respectful of the time zones.
Alrighty, well, that is a very, very long list of questions. I didn't try to get new stuff from you, because you guys, that last blog you guys did was amazing. Don't tell Margaret I said that. Don't tell Margaret I said that. I'm still busting her chops. She put her frog on the bottom of one of your comments to me, so I'm not.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So, but anything you want to say to the community before we let you get back to work?
No, just other than, everybody at Intrepid loves you guys. Cannot express enough our appreciation for you following the project, your enthusiasm, your support. It means the world to us from a development standpoint. We're here working our butts off to make you guys happy and proud. And it means everything to us when we can have content creators like Jalan and all of our other content creators, and you guys who are sitting on Discord, our forums, keeping up to date with the project and where it's going. That support means a lot to us, so we appreciate it.
Alrighty, well, you get back to work, and I do apologize to my chatters. I did leave them a message today that said I wasn't going to be taking questions from the chat because we spent the weekend developing questions, but I think you're doing an interview Wednesday, right?
I believe so. I'm not sure. I haven't checked my schedule that far ahead. Usually my schedule, I go through it on a day by day. I take it at a
I'm hearing from Ashes of Creation in the chat. You're doing a interview Wednesday, 1 p.m. Pacific with Smirk right?
Oh, Simurg. Yeah,
Smurg.
absolutely.
So they need to make sure to get the questions I didn't get to him.
There you go.
You
Awesome.
take care, Stephen. We'll see you next time.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Bye, guys. Like I said, I do apologize that I didn't get a chance to get all those questions from chat asked. What I am going to do right now is I am going to go back through the chat. I am going to look at your questions, and I will accumulate them on my side. I will accumulate them on my side, and I will try to get answers. You guys have seen the Ashes 101 product. If you guys haven't bebopped over to it yet, if you're looking for a lot of information, we have a ton of quality content creators in the Ashes community. But what I recommend is the link that I just put up. I will be putting up ashes101.com as a domain for right now. It just redirects to my site. If you guys have any questions, go ahead and ask them to me. I'm retired. I don't do anything all day. So if you have a question, go ahead and ask me. I can do the legwork for you, and then I'll get it incorporated into other products. I did see the straw hat question come up a couple of times. Straw hat, I am going to get that one answered. Yeah, you saw I was able to link you a character with a straw hat. It's important to me too. Yeah, it's important to me too. So I will get that there. No, this isn't that other game. You will notice that did not talk about. We had a little bit, but you got to remember, Steven comes from Lineage 2. He comes from ArcAge. So wherever a creative director comes from, those games are going to influence them. As far as the rest, like I said, you guys can ask me questions direct on Discord. I will get them to you. I will get you the answer. Somebody asked me a bunch today, got them a bunch of answers. And you guys are great. I really do appreciate it. I want to share the story now at the end. 4,300, why 4,300 was such an important number to me. My YouTube just rolled over 4,300 people. Steven took a chance on me last year, actually last April 21st. He said, Jalan, I waive all the previous requirements, the prerequisites for your channel size. I'm making you an official content creator. Well, I wanted to double my size in 1 year, and we did that in my community, in the Paradox community. We went from 2,150 to 4,300. How can you play Ashes of Creation Apocalypse? You can't right now. It is down. They are rebuilding some of the server architecture, but as soon as it's up, you will see it. Anyway, guys, this is my second show for the day. My voice is starting to go. I have children waiting to come home. I didn't think you guys wanted to hear my kids yelling in the background. So I will talk to you guys on the Discord in just a few minutes if you guys have anything for me. And then I got to start getting to work with Shaz. Shaz, you guys, so you know, he already has pinged me. So the transcript on Steven's end is done. I need to go ahead and fill in the question side of that so Shaz's fingers don't break. You guys take care, and I will see you next time I get to do one of these.